Bon, bienvenue à tous. On est très content de vous avoir avec nous pour ce petit moment de panel de discussion. Donc, on a aujourd'hui des gens très intéressants avec qui on va commencer des échanges sur la question dont Marie-Ève vient de vous faire part. Quel rôle pour l'art et la culture dans les hôtels? Puis, on est chanceux, vous savez certainement, membre de l'industrie hôtelière, que le W a récemment entamé une grande transformation. Donc, on vient tout juste là, de finaliser les derniers détails. Là, on est en train d'épousseter un petit peu le lobby. Donc, on se sent très excité, je pense, à l'idée de pouvoir un peu vous partager cette histoire-là. Donc, aujourd'hui, ben, on a Christina Poon, qui est la directrice générale du W avec nous, qui va pouvoir nous parler de ça. On a également Martin Leblanc, qui est associé architecte chez Sigli Architecture, puis qui a mené, je crois, le redesign de l'hôtel. Et on a avec nous Camille Jodoin, qui est artiste, qui partage son temps un peu entre Montréal et Toronto, et qui crée des magnifiques œuvres lumineuses, dont une qui se retrouve directement à l'entrée, là, derrière la réception de l'hôtel W. Donc, tous ces gens ont été impliqués dans la transformation du W. Et je pense que pour le bénéfice un peu des auditeurs, Christina, j'aurais aimé ça peut-être, Martin aussi, que vous nous racontiez un peu comment ça c'est quoi l'histoire, pourquoi on a eu besoin de changer le W. Racontez-nous un peu comment ça s'est passé, la genèse de ce projet de transformation-là là, qui vient toujours de se terminer.
En fait, ça a commencé, ça fait déjà 4 ans, si ma mémoire est bonne, avant mon arrivée même. Et il y avait beaucoup de réflexions parce qu'on voulait être certain d'avoir un produit qui va être pas seulement au bout du jour, mais peut-être même un petit peu en avant des tendances, puisque c'est ça notre trademark d'hôtel lifestyle. Lorsque ça a été inauguré il y a 15 ans, on était vraiment en avant de notre temps à Montréal, au Canada, par rapport à notre style. Et on voulait quand même continuer sur cette voie-là, sur notre deuxième rénovation majeure, pour relancer l'hôtel pour nos 15 ans. Alors, avec beaucoup de réflexions, avec des gens incroyables comme Martin de Sidley et son équipe, avec les gens de l'équipe W qui sont basés à New York, on a dû vraiment faire des brainstorming et se dire, bien, qui serons-nous pour les 10 prochaines années? Qu'est-ce qu'on a besoin de faire? Puis c'est comme ça qu'on est arrivé avec ce produit exceptionnel.
Ouais. Moi, ce que j'aimerais ajouter à ça, c'est que c'est sûr que ça a été une réflexion qui est assez longue, en fait. Bon, on a vécu beaucoup de transitions, même au niveau structurel chez W, Marriott. À ce moment-là, c'était, bon, la compagnie se restructurait. Puis ce qui nous a permis, je pense, de faire quelque chose de cohérent, ça a été toujours cette reconnaissance que l'hôtel a son caractère particulier. Oui, c'est dans le giron W, qui est une marque qui se positionne à l'avant-garde, mais ici, on parle presque d'un hôtel particulier, hein, avec une relation à la place, une relation à Montréal, une histoire même euh, je pense que W est encore la seule bannière au Canada est à Montréal. Donc il y avait toujours cette idée-là qu'on travaillait à quelque chose de pas forcément immense, mais de vraiment caractériel, de vraiment particulier. Et ben, on ne voulait pas rater notre shot, donc on y a vraiment pensé longtemps.
Mais là, 4 ans, c'est 4 ans de réflexion, c'est 3 ans de réflexion, 1 an de construction. Comment ça s'est passé un
Ouais,
peu pour vous?
c'est pas mal ça. Donc, on a commencé l'idée même de faire un projet, pourquoi, qu'est-ce qui fonctionne, qu'est-ce qui ne fonctionnait pas. Donc, d'avoir une écoute sur les gens qui utilisent l'hôtel, les gens qu'on souhaiterait qu'ils utilisent l'hôtel. Puis, tu rajoutes aussi souvent à ça la logique à l'époque, le restaurant était loué à un tiers parti. Donc, pour ceux qui se rappellent, là, il y avait un restaurant italien là, au début. Donc, la reprise des baux, le type d'opération qu'on souhaite, la marque W même, parce que je pense que ce qu'on a fait, ça a servi à W à se positionner sur comment ils veulent offrir un service, un hôtel urbain. Et donc, ça nous a généré, ça nous a permis de s'asseoir avec paquet de gens, là, comme Christina le disait, même chez W New York, le propriétaire aussi, Ivanhoe Cambridge, en a participé à ça, Christina, son équipe. Donc, je pense qu'il y a eu d'abord une période d'écoute active pour ensuite en arriver à une période où on commençait à échanger sur des propositions, sur des choses. Mais ça a commencé par une analyse.
Très, très cool. Puis, je pense que c'est... ben, justement, quand vous analysez, puis quand vous êtes dans cette période-là d'imaginer un peu le futur d'un hôtel, c'est quoi les choses que vous trouvez qui sont importantes à considérer dans cette analyse-là, puis des directions que vous pensez qui ont été vraiment essentielles pour vous dans ce processus-là?
C'est sûr que pour moi, c'est l'expérience de l'invité avant tout. À partir du moment qu'il débarque de son véhicule, qu'est-ce qu'il voit, qu'est-ce qu'il vit? Donc, c'est une expérience sensorielle de tous les côtés. Donc, lorsqu'il est devant l'hôtel, il y a la musique qui joue. Déjà, il entend quelque chose, il se dit « Wow, je suis où? Là, je suis au W. » On rentre à l'intérieur, il y a des couleurs, il y a des impressions, des textures. Donc, tout ça rentre en ligne de compte. Mais c'est le flow aussi. Où est-ce qu'il se dirige une fois qu'il rentre à travers la porte? On voulait avoir deux expériences. Donc, à droite, ce serait l'expérience de tout ce qui est nourriture et boissons. Donc, il va entendre des bruits de verres de vin qui se versent, un peu de musique, un cocktail qui est en train de faire. Il va être attiré vers le bar au lieu d'aller vers la réception pour s'enregistrer. C'est ce qu'on souhaitait, c'est ce que Sylvie a réalisé pour nous. Tandis qu'à gauche, ben, c'est vraiment plus ce qui est, je dirais, transactionnel. Donc, l'enregistrement et prendre des envols pour aller à leur chambre. Alors, c'est comme ça qu'on a revu tous les espaces côté fonctionnalité. C'est-à-dire, ben, il y a une expérience sensorielle, mais il y a aussi différents endroits où l'invité va être attiré vers parce qu'il voit tout. C'est un plan ouvert. Tandis qu'avant, c'était plutôt fermé. Lorsqu'on avait au W, on voyait le lobby, mais c'est tout. On ne voyait pas bien le restaurant, on ne voyait pas bien le bar. Donc, ça faisait partie des choses importantes qu'on voulait changer avec ce renouveau-là qu'on a fait.
Ce que j'aimerais ajouter, moi, c'est que W est une marque qui a toujours compté sur un narratif très fort dans la définition de ses hôtels. Et je vous dirais que c'est particulier à W, mais j'ajouterais à ça le service, l'intention réelle. Là, ça fait longtemps que je connais les gens qui sont à cet hôtel-là, l'intention réelle de tous les employés d'avoir une bonne relation, pas artificielle, authentique avec les clients. Et en ce sens-là, le narratif prend un aspect très important parce que ça donne des points de contact entre les autres et entre les clients puis bon, les gens de service. Donc, ça permet justement... Donc, notre but, c'est de trouver des points de contact, de trouver des choses à raconter, de trouver justement des sujets qui puissent, au-delà de, bon, ben, je me book à telle heure puis telle heure, qui existe ou quel genre de cocktail, de nourriture on veut. Ça existe, c'est important. Mais on voulait trouver d'autres choses. On voulait rattacher l'hôtel à son histoire, à l'histoire de Montréal, parce qu'on accueille des visiteurs. Mais on voulait, et c'est là, je pense que ça devient important, on voulait trouver des pistes qui nous permettent de créer des points de contact. Puis l'art, ben, c'en est certainement un. C'en est un qui fait partie de W. Mais ici, on le voulait, je pense, et même dans les niveaux W, je pense qu'on l'a amené à un niveau vraiment intéressant dans la façon dont on a essayé d'intégrer l'art dans le quotidien de l'hôtel pour permettre justement un autre point de contact entre les usagers et les opérateurs.
Donc, c'est comme toute une espèce de culture finalement. On parle d'une expérience dès l'entrée, on parle de points de contact, on parle d'éléments narratifs à intégrer. Donc, c'est vraiment comme une expérience culturelle au final qu'on veut immerser les gens. Puis là, je pense que les gens ici n'ont pas nécessairement vu les résultats encore parce qu'on n'a pas eu la chance de se promener beaucoup. Donc, si vous voulez, je vais partager mon écran avec quelques photos du lobby, du travail de Martin. Puis peut-être que j'aimerais ça, Martin, Christina, si vous pouvez me dire qu'est-ce que vous aimez. J'imagine que vous êtes content du résultat, mais est-ce qu'il y a des trucs que vous aimez particulièrement là, pendant qu'on dévoile là, les images de ce magnifique lobby?
Ah, ça, c'est super bon. Je sais pas, ce que je peux dire, c'est que c'est la vue. En fait, on est au bar, puis on regarde sur l'ensemble de l'espace. Donc, c'est le living room qu'on appelle. Et on voulait que ça soit un lieu multifonctionnel. C'est beaucoup plus vaste qu'avant, même si c'est le même espace. Parce qu'il y a comme une précision, comme Christina le disait. On a enlevé, si vous voulez, le check-in, on a clarifié certaines choses. Donc, l'espace devient à la fois plus précis et plus multifonctionnel. Et c'est vraiment ce qu'on voulait faire.
Mon micro était enlevé. Bon, mais alors, I'm just going to switch to English. So we told everyone that it was a bilingual conference, and I realized that we've only been speaking French so far. So Martin, you've been touching really interesting point, saying that for you it was important elements to integrate to the art. You've mentioned that it was at the core of the W Hotel's brand and expression. And Christina, you've mentioned also wanting to be at the forefront of like the tendencies and that the W is an iconic hotel when it opened 15 years ago for that. And I think that the recent transformation that it's been going through kind of reassessed that position that it has in the Montreal market. So I was curious to know, what role do you think, and this is a question for all of you. So what role do you think is the art playing in an architectural experience of an hotel? You've mentioned, Martin, like being a touch point, expressing a culture. So I'm just curious to know like your different perspective on what you think it can fulfill and why is it important for you?
Well, in my case, it's always been important to integrate art. I'd say out of museum, period. So I think hotel is a good canvas for art, but in general, I like to provide spaces that help position art in it because I feel it integrate more with everyday life. If you don't suspect art, you have more of a raw kind of relationship with it, and this is what I'm seeking in I'd say most of the project we're doing to integrate as much art as we can because I feel it deserves a place because of all the when there's art, you always question your relationship with an object or with what you see, and this constant curiosity enhancer, which is art, I think is important for our life every day, every time, and everything we do. So an hotel is a great canvas for that. It's a great place to ask for artists to come with something. It's a great place for owners to invest in art to position it. It's a great place to showcase it, and it's a great as we said before, it's a great story enhancer.
Yeah. And what about, I'm interested in your point of view, Camille, as an artist. Why would you say is the role of art into an hotel?
Well, my perspective, I feel like like it connects the local community with the global community within that space, and it brings out like the spirit of the city and the history as well of the destination, any city. It's mutually beneficial because the artists help the hotel to visually communicate their identity through aesthetics, but also embodying the values of the company. And in return, artists are supported in giving a public platform for their visual voice. And I also think it improves the psychic well-being of everyone in the space, like the guests, the employees, and yeah, that's my take.
Interesting. Yeah, I think you're touching on important points that like Christina was also mentioning, how to reflect our essence, how to also maybe connect with our user. Martin mentioned that it's very important for people at the W to really have this truly authentic, connection with their guests. So is that something you'd agree on in terms of the role, Christina, or would you add anything to that?
I would say maybe an image I have of art for me is it's a statement piece. It's if you can wear a dress, but if you don't have the jewelry to go with it, it seems like you're missing something that clearly says something about you and who you are. And that's how I feel about art in the hotel here. So it clearly defines our identity, that we're bold, we're edgy, we're colorful, and we want to live it up. But that's what the art here says about us. And I feel that our guests get that message as they walk into our hotel.
Yeah. So how can, for example, how could the art influence the guest experience? I mean, how do you foresee this as being like having an active role within your destination?
For our property, for sure, what they know that they're at the W Montreal, because some hotels are basically cookie cutter formula and it works for them. So no matter where you are in the world, it's exactly the same layout, same colors, and so on. That's their recipe. The W's vision is that each property has their identity, and it clearly states, yes, we're W, but we're clearly in Montreal. And this is what it does for us. So it's nice. And people, it's a conversation piece. It goes from, okay, wow, to let's talk about it, to can I take 20 selfies and post it up for my friends? So that's what's lovely about it.
Yeah.
Yeah, and what I'd say is I think the hotel, I think the hotel is evolving from having like decorative art, because, you know, what is art? Is it, you know, it could be numerical, could be digital, physical, could be a painting, could be a sculpture. There's many forms that it can take, and I think we should promote that. But my point was that is I hope it's not just. I think there's a contract between, as Camille said, there's kind of a contract between the brand and the artist at some point. But it should remain free. It should remain the expression or the voice of the artist. It should not feel necessarily kind of just, oh, is it nice? Is it good looking? I think art rather than decor have the needs to express something, needs to provide kind of a shock, needs to provoke that what is it, you know? And I think Camille's piece is beautiful for that, because it's really hard to grasp how the hell was it done. So the craftsmanship behind that is very strong, and that's the kind of reflection or thinking that or emotion we want to create.
Yeah. So it's I would like to know a little bit, because I think everyone can agree that it's amazing to like have interesting art pieces. And Martin, you're mentioning the art pieces of Camille, and I think on screen right now we can see this art piece that's called Sun Vault. So I have to, maybe first I'd like, Camille, maybe if you can talk a little bit about your art piece, just so that we can kind of understand, you know, what's his name, how do you create it, what was the intention, and then I have some more technical questions for Christina.
Yeah, definitely. So I was approached by MASSIVart to design and create an art piece to be integrated within the architectural vision and design of Sydney architecture. And they wanted the space to be inspired by the city of Montreal, and specifically architectural elements of the surrounding area. And I was asked to create a piece inspired by bank vaults. And one of the slides, there was the inspiration image that I was kind of basing the composition on.
Yeah, this one.
And I thought that it was fitting, because a lot of my work looks to explore meaning and symbolism and metaphor behind everyday environments, often using architecture as carriers of metaphor and storytelling. So I got to thinking about the function of bank vaults, and which is to safeguard something valuable. And this got me imagining if my body were a bank vault, what would the contents be? And what are the things within myself that are precious or valuable or in need of protecting? And my personal answer to that would be my memories, my values, thoughts, feelings, knowledge, beliefs, like all the components that make up my lived experience, that are contained within the physicality of my body. So the name of the piece, Sun Vault, refers to a symbolic vault for energy. And the symbols depicted throughout the piece are kind of a visual language that I've been developing over the past 7 years. And it's a language for the emotional and indefinite and intuitive. And yeah, that's a bit of a tour of what's going on in my brain.
And I'd like to know, Christina, how do people react to it in the hotel? Have people start to see it? What's the
Well, it's fantastic because normally the transaction piece at the front desk is very, corporate-like. Do you have a reservation? Can I have your credit card? That type of thing. They're just mesmerized by the piece. So they stand there, they're staring at it. They're not sure what they're looking at first because it takes a bit of time to compute all the pieces of this beautiful art. And then eventually they kind of go, wow, that's nice. What is it? And it's always a conversation starter. It just breaks the ice. And right away, for me, it's a sense of arrival. They're checking in and they're saying, I'm coming into somewhere where I feel good about being here. There's something that compels me to be happy here. And that's the start of it.
Great. So Camille, was it a challenge to work to create?
She's gone.
Oh, well. My question when I said, Christina, that I had more of a technical question was, so I guess that everyone agrees that like integrating a lot of beautiful art pieces in an hotel is definitely a good idea. But when it comes to actually really integrating it, there's kind of a challenge in terms of both technical, but also on a budget standpoint. So how do you see that? Well, is it a challenge? Was it a challenge for you to integrate art into the process of revamping the hotel? And if so, how can you overcome this challenge?
It's a challenge asking for money for anything, right? That's part of our lives, and we have to justify it. So asking for a budget for art is like anything else. You have to be able to sell the idea and explain the vision of why it's important and what it can bring back to the hotel. ROI is an acronym that is really important to any ownership group and say, well, what's in it for me? What's the return on investment? You can't calculate it that, okay, you have that piece of art, it's going to give you $100. That's not the way it works. But it does bring something superior to your hotel. It's a level of quality, it's a level of experience that you will see it reflected on what we call the ADR, which is a measurable for hotels. It's the average daily rate, because you can ask for a higher rate when you have quality art in your hotel versus just a piece of art that you can buy in any common store or on Amazon. That means anybody can have that. What we have there is unique. There's only our property that has it, and people are willing to pay more to have this experience.
Have you noticed like impact on your occupancy rate, like you mentioned, that you would somehow relate to the art pieces that would be integrated in your hotel?
Well, it's a little too early now because, as you mentioned in the beginning, we finished doing what we need to do with this new phase of the W only as the pandemic was happening. So unfortunately, we don't have the measurables with this new design, but I can talk to you about when we opened 15 years ago. It was so impactful to have a lifestyle design hotel that the ADR has been one of the top ones in the city of Montreal since then, and we've been able to maintain it. So in our point of view is that we're going to continue staying on top of our game when it comes to average daily rate.
And from an architecture point of view, Martin, is it difficult to integrate, to kind of convince your client on the value of the integration, or much rather have you noticed more openness?
It's very difficult. It's not easy, as Christina said, to sell them on any budget. And I'd say elements like lighting or art are seen as, you know, nice to have in a way. Yeah, I would love to have art, but we don't have the budget for it. Okay, so that's one of the key reasons I heard. And I must say that in this case, as we mentioned in the beginning, this project is in partnership with Ivanhoe Cambridge. And we started at the W. One of the first restaurants we did at Sidley was the Eat. It was a temporary restaurant which integrated art as, you know, its backbone, and it worked. It convinced a lot of people at Ivanhoe Cambridge and W to see art in a different way and as an investment. And then we move on to other hotels and stuff where art became kind of a facteur de différence, and I think it also convinced W, because W had an art program which was more like they're having art which is not temporary. It's not a commission like we did with Camille. It's kind of art which is there, but it's moving, and there's a place for that as well. But I think the step here was to convince everybody to go with a budget to allow for permanent art. And I think Christina, you, Philippe, and some part us, we succeeded in convincing both the brand and the investors to put money and to do something interesting, spectacular, and focused. I think the art here is being taken very seriously. It is not just a painting on the wall. It is a serious démarche with the artist. I feel, you know, once we gave a framework, they're pretty much free to do, you know, what they want to do, and the reward is so good because they provide us with you know, their story that comes in a bit the place. But the challenge to budget this are great. I think the rewards, you know, are also great. Remains to be seen in the case of W, but other hotels where we install art have proven successful. So yeah.
So that's very interesting about this whole part of measuring the ROI, and I think we're getting to a place where more and more developers are maybe sensitive to the unique addition that art and culture can bring to a brand and to an identity and to an overall experience. I'm curious to know, according to you, when you think of an innovative way of maybe integrating artists or cultural elements, you've mentioned, Martin, that maybe it goes beyond hanging a painting. Would you have examples, Christina, Martin, or Camille, of how would you envision innovative way that is a win for developers to integrate art for maybe for people out there that would be like, okay, well, I'm facing this challenge now. Like, what could be interesting way for me to maybe you know, I want to get more art, but what kind of way could we go through? What are maybe some innovations that we could do to go beyond?
The thing I would say though is whatever the form of art it takes, I think the key is to pencil it down at the very beginning when the budget are still not known, where we're still looking at how are we going to tackle that. Just had it at the very, very beginning of the process. That way that the budget is carried on, and the same way, you know, we pencil down, oh, we need a bar. You know, the bar was not even a question. We don't need, I mean, there's this question of size. Is going to be a big bar, a small bar, is going to be in the middle, is going to be that or this, but it was part of the requisite of the space to have a bar. So when art becomes a program elements rather than a budget expense, it's way different in terms of approach. Yeah, that's just what I want to add. I'm not sure I'm answering your question here, but I think it's a point needed to be done.
How about it? Do we have Camille back?
Oh, yeah, I'm here.
Oh, okay, perfect. Camille, have you noticed internationally or locally or some examples of things you said, wow, this is an integration of art and culture that I, as an artist, feel so like impressed by?
I mean, it's my second time working with the hotel. I was really impressed by the like complete integration at the W Hotel of the art actually within the architecture. Like was actually like installed into the wall and like into the whole architecture of the space. And I was really impressed with that. And yeah, I think everything that Martin said was great. It's more about like the story of the space and integrating into the architecture rather than just hanging a painting on the wall as decoration, and it becomes part of the identity. Sorry.
No, it's good. I think identity is the key, and I think having so there's no straight answer to your question. What kind of art innovation? I think it's more like I mean, it's not, as Christina was saying, it's not, you cannot apply any art to any hotel. You need to understand who you are a little bit before even proposing kind of an art program. So I think the question remains about, you know, who we are, and then it opens the door to you know, art installation. Because if you don't do that, it may look non-authentic, and then you lose the story, you lose the identity. It needs to be well integrated, not only with the architecture, but with the overall feeling of the space, if I may.
Mm-hmm. To this point, do you think what was the story or the brief that made you, like, and us at MASSIVart one, but I want to hear maybe your point of view, like think about Camille, for example, or choose certain artists? Was
No
there
clue. Never met Camille before this. so that's the whole point, right? I mean, I'm not there to pick a guy I like and, you know, put it on the space. This is not about it. This is about having, and I think, Christina, you can relate to that. It's about having local artists, non-local artists, like global artists, like Camille said, having a canvas where they can connect, relate, be together, and that's what it is. And it's, I mean, my role is to give something to munch on about the storyline, and but after that, that's it. I mean, I let art be. I mean, I'm not an artist. I'm not about to tell them what to do. But I want their place to be there. I want their voice to be seen or heard, and that's the beauty of it.
There has to be trust, because otherwise it wouldn't be art. If we said we want it square, we want it blue, it's too specific. You have to let the artist do their thing. That being said, when I speak to my fellow hoteliers, well, oh my God, well, does it take $1 million? I think at the end of the day, it's really to say it can be small, it could be medium size, it could be really large. It depends on your vision and on what you can do, but it's okay to start small as well, and maybe phase in different arts in different times. It doesn't have to be all in one shot. If your property already exists, there's ways of integrating it with great artists or galleries that are willing to work with you, or designers, or a firm like MASSIVart firm. They can help you phase that in. So just to reassure people that it doesn't have to be complete renovation to make this happen. And MASSIVart can correct me if I'm wrong, but that's the way I feel about it.
There's that's very interesting, because we have a questions from Ernest Gonzalez, who's asking, why do you think monumental sculptures and public art as part of a hotel is still not that much like that popular? He says, why building developers are not considering this as something basic when planning these kinds of projects? So it kind of relate a little bit, I think, to what you say, though. It would be because of this difficult, like maybe like this desire to maybe start smaller, or would you have
I mean, there's a question of space, of course, but I think in some case I'd like to see monumental art. I'd love to see. I think it's a very valid question. Of course, there's a challenge in budget in many cases. To some point, we have something monumental. The art we put in a living room takes, I don't know, 5% of the lobby, which is in itself quite monumental, but it is integrated in the wall. And I guess the question was more, why isn't there like a big sculpture in the middle? It could happen. It could happen, but it's usually it usually requires a lot of trust between brand owner, developer, architect, artist, and it's hard. It doesn't come as easily, you know.
Mm-hmm.
Trust is important.
But it's evolved a lot in the last few years, I would say. Before it was less recognized, but today, just what you are doing with MASSIVart and what Mural is doing with the murals that are painted all over the city of Montreal, our museums are doing better than ever. And when you look at the admissions at the Musée des Beaux-Arts, it's gone through the roof. So I think there's an appreciation that's coming, and art will be recognized more than ever as we go along. And everybody that's on this panel or listening to us, you're part of the movement, right? Talk about it and try to get it in, because it's going to happen. It's part of who we are. It's our signature here in Montreal.
That's
and I think we at the Queen Elizabeth, we managed to install a few, I wouldn't say monumental, but larger, you know, objects that are in the space. So it's really space dependent, I'd say.
Yeah, for sure. Christina, you've mentioned the museums and this like more general appreciation of the public towards art, and and somehow the democratizations of art, and having art in commercial spaces such as hotel is definitely being part of the movement. So thank you for that from the art community. But I was wondering, in terms of, for example, in your point of view, Camille, for you to have an art piece exhibited at a museum versus in an hotel, how is that different feelings? Like, how are you excited about, obviously you're probably excited about both, but what is your perception of, both contexts?
Yeah, I mean, one of the main differences is there's going to be a bigger and wider audience for my work. You're going to reach more people, different kinds of people, rather than just the art gallery going community or the visual art community. It's people from all sorts of different communities that maybe are typically not gallery goers or museum goers. And it's different from showing in a gallery or an institution, because you don't have to think of the work as a sellable product or either a government approved message. And when the work's privately commissioned, you're supported financially, so you can really just focus on the ideas in creating rather than the sellability of the work.
So it's a positive experience for you in the end to have those private commissions. So it definitely would support your career in an important way, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, definitely. Yeah, because you're like, you have that trust. You're already being supported rather than making something. And I always try to stay as true to myself as I can when I'm making something. But like, the reality is, you need to sell some of the work to keep doing the work that you're doing. So when you're putting together a gallery show, that's definitely at the back of your mind.
Mm-hmm. Well, I have to this point of being important for the art community to maybe have more private commission. Martin, you've been kind of really successful in the last year designing hotels, and I mean, the Queenie was one, the fourth season, and now this fantastic W. So I'm kind of curious to know, what's your magic trick in order to What's your, how do you do it?
There's no much magic trick there. It's
Recipe.
just it comes up with understanding why you're doing something. I mean, an hotel, Christina would just experience it, right? It involves so many people for such long time that to find a reason, to a goal, why we're building, not just because oh, it's been 7 years, the hotel is due for a revamp, or the space is due for a revamp, or we need to. I mean, this is not sufficient to convince a lot of people to get together and work very, very hard to make something successful. So I think you need to work very hard on everything that relates to the experience of the hotel. I mean, the design is part of it, but it's only a small part of it. I mean, the people, what they're going to say, where they're going to, Christina was pointing out through the different type of experience we're going to have. And I think at the end of the day, you just want to do a space that's going to feel right, but you got to define what right means, and that's why we try to focus on the raison d'être, the direction, the narrative, and we try to express it to everybody who wants to listen, the staff, the people involved, the people putting the speaker. Everybody knows why we're doing something, and we want them to feel they're part of it too. So it's not just my vision. Who cares? It's the vision of a group of people who want to do something right, and we want to invite as much people as possible contributing to that goal. And that's how you make successful product. That's how you make successful hotel, and that lasts after its initial opening.
Oh, I was on mute. Sorry about that. Interesting. So, what was the maybe Christina and Martin? You can answer that one. But what was the original vision and intention? You're mentioning this importance of people looking in the same direction, so they're feeling part of a project and really understanding where they're going. So, what is that destination for the W Montreal? You've mentioned kind of like reflecting the Montreal identity. Was that as the centerpiece of what you guys were doing there?
Absolutely. We had around the table, I think we had passionate Montrealers, people that lived in Montreal, but also people that were not in Montreal, but that loved Montreal. So that was part of how we were able to build the storytelling behind what was created. To Martin's credit, he doesn't give himself a lot of credit here, but the way he tells the story comes and gets you right here, and you can see it, you can envision it, and you just want to have that happen in three dimensions, because an initial vision is just on paper, and somebody's got to tell you that story for it to work. So around the table is a bunch of people that loved Montreal, that loves, somewhere loves art as well. But there is always that question: how do you make it, the investment worthwhile? So we have to weave that into the storytelling. It's too important, because we are business people at the end of the day, all of us around the table, because we can love art, but that's not what's going to pay the bills at the end of the day. So it's important to integrate all of that together. And that's why we were able to keep all these people around the table, is that we spoke the two languages, right? The art part and the business part of it.
Yeah, that's an important point. And I have a question that so we've been working on the different kinds of project, and always our goal at MASSIVart is to really, like you mentioned, like bridge those two worlds of speaking businesses, but then also have the respect of the artist's point of view, and try to find a winning balance with that. And most of the time, this storytelling about Montreal, that's very important. And you mentioned Montreal lovers. So I guess that one of the questions we have a lot is like, whether, and that's interesting to have all of your point of view on that, whether or not we should go local. So right now it's a pandemic, there's this huge support movement of like buying local, shopping local. What is your vision in terms of integrating international art or local art, and how would you, what would be your recommendation for people that wants to integrate art in the future? Maybe Camille, you can start this one.
Well, I think it's going to be different for every hotel. Like it depends on the history of the destination, the history of the hotel, of that specific site. Depends on the individual values of that company and their mission as a hotel, who their clients are, and what message they want to communicate to those clients. And I think that there's room for both local and international, because hotels are spaces where those two communities meet. And I think the W Hotel was like seeing Montreal as like a history that's in motion. It's like the past, the present, the future. Like it's not a static thing. But I think it does make sense to support local artists, because those are part of what's helping to shape the culture of that destination.
Would you agree with that, Christina, about the importance of maybe doing a little bit of both?
Absolutely. Although I think it's easier for a Montrealer to produce you something, or somebody that at least knows Montreal, like Camille, she knows Montreal, that can produce something that has a sense of Montreal. So the neon heart that we saw a little earlier, Martin, I love the story you told about this, where, you know, who doesn't remember walking down on St. Catherine when there were so many neons back in a couple of years ago? It's recent that they took those away, but it does have a recall of that time. So Archambault had a huge neon sign, right? Lit up in red for Archambault. See, it comes in and brings back memories. So that's why it helps to have artists that know Montreal well enough. Right behind me is an artist that does murals, and she does them in the city of Montreal, and she's a Montrealer. So it's part of our DNA to integrate that. Sure, you can have an international artist as long as that person has a point of view that is Montreal.
I like, I think our goal is to encourage local artists for sure. I like to see local talent emerge. But I also think that one of the way we can help those people is to mix them with global talents. So giving them an opportunity to be with super known artists, for local artists or any artist really is really interesting, because they're kind of, just because they're together, they're creates a dynamic, and I think it helps them reach a larger audience, because I would love for Montreal artists or any, you know, starting artist to be known outside of a city, and to have an international career. So how can we help those guys shine? And obviously, you know, globally recognized artists are more expensive, but I think a mix of, you know, that help, you know, the local artists to have reach a broader audience, and I believe in mixing them for that reason.
I totally agree, and it's actually really helping, yeah, to spread out and maybe bring even more attention to the integrations. So we are starting to get more and more questions. So thank you for people online to send us your questions our way. And it seems that the topic is really focusing today on the challenging part of the budget part and the planification part. So I think that we have lots of interesting questions here. So I'll go with the questions of Victor Perez-Roule, who's asking what does a good budget breakdown looks, you know? He wants to know in terms of percentages, for example, what would be a good balance between artists' fees, artwork production, the installation, and then he says, what is the relation of this with the value that it brings into the place? So kind of overall, what are the basics of the ABC of the mechanic of the art integrations? I don't know if anyone wants to take this question.
I'm not sure I can answer all the question about budget and the mechanics, but I can say how do you assess a budget for an hotel? It's really hard. Is it 5%? Is it 1% of the cost? What is a good budget? The way we tackle that is we start with kind of a wish list, and then we cost it. So we look at any given space, and because it's part of the program, as I said earlier, like the bar, like the restaurant, like the check-in, desk, we position art. We put art on the plan, like, okay, here, there, that, that, and we establish a relationship with the experience, what you see when you come in, what you don't see when you come in. I want you to look up, or whatever. You do a parcours, and then you come up with kind of a global look on what art can do to the space, and based on that, you cost it. You say, I called you, Philippe, and I say, Philippe, what, if it's that we're doing, what would be a reasonable budget for that? And then, it's always too expensive, and we have to, cut it down. But at the end, we managed to save a few.
And to complete your answer, I think that there's also a questions of artist fee versus maybe what I perceive as, project management and installations. So I think that it's a lot of our goal is to try to make it easy and as simple as possible for the artist to create and to be really focused on the art piece that they can integrate to the architecture. And the reality of a construction site is that, like Martin said, it can take up to 3 years of management and, like decisions, and then coming back on decisions, and then changing a wall, and then changing the sizes of a wall, or changing where the electricity comes in. So I think that it's important to have kind of a balance, because the reason I'm saying this is both Eunice that has the first question about, how do you balance artist fees versus the team that helps the installations. So what we're trying to do is to kind of eliminate a bit of the stress of this project management part, so that, for example, in Camille's case, it's a little more like, here's a framework to create without having to necessarily bother about, a lot of the contractual or legal or these kinds of more complicated parts. So I think that it's important to also have this part in. Obviously, I think some of the artists are perfectly used to dealing with those things, and but when it comes to maybe having a pool of artists, it might be simpler to have that. So in terms of numbers of balance, I would tend to be like Martin's answer. So basically what we're trying to see is what would be needed from the artist to create, and that would be reasonable for her. And then how can we try to make that fit into the overall project? So there's no precise number that we can give. Okay, well, it's like in a gallery, for example, 50-50. That I think doesn't apply, and has to be really case by case. I don't know if you'd agree with that, Christina, and if you'd have some more maybe thoughts to share on the financial, and as well as you, Camille, on the artist perspective. I guess sometimes you can feel you'd probably have those same questions. So.
On the hotel side, it's because each piece of art is different. So you may have seen earlier the picture of the rain lamps. So rain lamps will need a different treatment and different work. There's some electricity, there's this, and so that will be accounted for differently versus Camille's art, where it's integrated into the wall. It has lighting, there's controls there. So each piece really brings their own lists of costs. So it cannot be defined as easily as saying it's 5% for electricity, 10% for this, because it varies too much. What I would say about it is to make sure that you add all the costs and not have any surprises, because we all know how our owners hate when we say, okay, it's only $5,000, but then we come back and say, ooh, I forgot about this, and this, and this, and it's finally $7,000. That's when you get hit with a, no, forget it, that's off. So it's important to do the homework at the beginning. Exactly like Martin said, you sketch it into your plan, but from there as well, try to get the most precise number you can with a bit of a contingency just in case, because there's always surprises in renovation for some reason.
Great. And maybe, so I see the time is almost over.
I just want to add one little thing to that, because in the hotel industry, there's something which exists for many, many years. It's art consultant, and usually they're not, nothing against those people. Some do a great work, but they're basically paid on commission from the artist. So basically the owner or the hotel doesn't pay any fees for the art consultant because he suggests artists and he gets a quote from the work of the artist. The danger with that is that I find that it limits the creativity and the amount of artists that you can actually have in your hotel, because those people, they usually have a set of artists they work with, always the same, being the same, and it kind of, not really achieve the goal that we want to achieve with installing art in a private space.
Well, I would agree with that, but I have maybe a bias here. Camille, just before we have a conclusion, because we have to run, there's a very important announcement in 3 minutes from the government about the future of hotels, and I'm sure everyone wants to go and listen to that. So would you feel that it was helpful, or do you feel that there's maybe not a fair repartition when it comes to working with either, like Martin said, an art consultant, or like with an agency? Like, and be open. I mean, I don't have to filter because I'm there, but do you feel it's helping, or do you feel like it's not really fair for you, like as an artist point of view?
I mean, I think it's really helpful because I don't think I would have ever gotten this commission if it wasn't through you. Like, it just expands your opportunities and who you know. I mean, obviously the middle agent is going to take a commission as well, so that's going to have to be thought about in the budget. But I don't think I would have ever been exposed to this opportunity if it wasn't for MASSIVart.
Well, thank you. That was not my objective, but I appreciate it. No, but maybe what I think that, to Christina's point, avoiding surprises maybe is something also interesting. So whenever we're receiving, for example, an artist project, I think that with the experience of having installed for 10 years installations in public spaces and commercial spaces, gives you maybe a little checklist of ideas of what could happen, and maybe prevent some of the surprises that could then maybe be kind of a little turn down. So I just want to thank you very, very much, Martin, Camille, Christina, for your time. I know we have a lot of Zoom calls. So I do appreciate that you take the time to come and share your thoughts on the art integrations in hotels. We're very excited, Christina, to be physically able to come and have a drink in this newly revamped lobby, and make sure that you guys go and see Camille's art piece, the Sun Vault. And thank you to AGM, l'Association des Grands Hôteliers de Montréal, for the opportunity today to get those people together. So I don't know if you want to address maybe a little conclusion before we go.
Oui, merci Philippe, merci Christina, merci Camille, merci Martin pour ces superbes discussions, pour ce vraiment beau panel. Merci à tous les participants d'avoir été avec nous aujourd'hui pour ce webinaire. Donc, j'invite tous les participants à nous rejoindre aussi la semaine prochaine. On aura un autre webinaire jeudi, donc le 18 juin, cette fois-ci à 11 h en fin de matinée. On aura le plaisir d'accueillir Émile Gourieux, donc de STR. Comme à chaque fin de webinaire, on fait un petit sondage de satisfaction, donc n'hésitez pas à mettre vos commentaires, toutes suggestions pertinentes. Nous, ça nous permet d'effectuer des changements dans notre formule, puis d'améliorer la qualité du webinaire. Donc, sur ce, je vous souhaite une belle journée. Merci encore à notre fameux panel d'aujourd'hui, puis on se voit la semaine prochaine. Au revoir.
Merci beaucoup, au revoir.
Merci. Thank you.